this is you? And I went, who are you? What do you want? She said, you must come to London and sing with a group.
All I ever got from my troubles was rejection.
And I said, which group?
You
And she said,
invited to an audition.
yeah, she wouldn't tell me. And I said, well, I'm not coming down.
That's why trusting you was more than I could do.
And at the end, she said something like, she said, you must come. And I said, tell me the name of the band. And she said,
You're a younger woman, you took my money, you said it was just too bad. You don't wash my clothes, call me honey, but I don't feel so sad. But baby, how can I lose?
no, but I can give you the initials. She says, AC und DC. I said, you mean AC/DC? And she went, Scheiße, I have said too much.
What I never had. Goodbye, love.
And I said, you know what? No, I said they're a great band and all that, but I'm too old. I'm 32. I'm past my sell-by date. You know, they'll not be interested. It'll be a waste of a trip. An hour later, this is just strange, an hour later, a wonderful fella called Andre Jacquemin, who did all the Monty Python music, you know, and all of that. He phoned me up and he said, hello, Brian. Oh, you're all right, are you? He said, listen, I've got a lovely studio now called Redwood. You know, all Cockneys say Redwood. And he said, and I'm doing adverts, mate. I'm doing one for Hoover. You know Hoover? I said, yeah, Hoover, the vacuums. He went, yes, mate. He said, do you fancy coming down and having a sing on it? It's 350 quid. Well, that was more than that. I said, what? Are you kidding? Of course I will. When do you need us? And he told us about 3 days, and I phoned the lady back, and I said, you know what, I can be there in 3 days' time. And she went, okay, that's good. And that's where I went down, and I went into the studio, and what was it? It went, yeah, the new high-powered mover from Hoover. It's a beautiful mover.
Right to the edge, changing it back as easy as ABC. The new high-powered compact from Hoover. It's a beautiful mover.
I thought it's 350 quid. I went, well, I've been in the wrong business. And then from there, I remember coming out the studio and just saying, gosh, it's getting late. I have to get back to Newcastle, which is a 5-6 hour drive in there. Yeah. Or do I walk across that street? But I made a fateful decision that evening. I just said, bollocks, I'm going to walk across the street. And I did.
Thank goodness.
And I opened the door, and I'll never forget Malcolm, God bless his cotton socks, came over and he gave us a bottle of Newcastle brown ale. Uh-huh. He said, there you go, me son. I know you like that. I said, mate, I could kill this. I remember I sang Tina Turner's Nutbush City Limits, and they had to learn it. Like, what the hell? But it was wonderful. I said, I like that song.
Nutbush City Limits?
Yeah. And Mal says, yeah, I think I can do that, mate. I'll just give it a little shotty there, you know. And I played a few chords, you know. Both them and me were a little bit unsure. You know, if I had done an AC/DC song first, they would have been just so, you know, and I would have been going, oh my God. And this way it was fun. And we had a laugh. And then, you know, I looked around and there was a couple of raised eyebrows because it's a great rock and roll song, Nutbush City Limits. And the guys were actually getting a groove and all that, and we're just chunking away. And then we did Whole Lot of Roses second. What happened was I said, thanks very much, lads, for the sing. I said, wait till I get back to my band. They're not going to believe I sang with you guys. But thanks very much. And they went, where you going? I said, I got to get home, mate. I got to open the shop up in the morning.
Within days, on the 1st of April 1980, AC/DC officially announced Brian Johnson as their new lead vocalist.
se stvori.